Tammy Diffendorf is the funny one. Not funny like Jill, who makes jokes to protect herself. Not funny like Bonnie, who weaponizes humor before anyone can get too close. Tammy is funny in the way that a hurricane is funny. Big, loud, impossible to ignore, and leaving a trail of broken things behind her that she didn't entirely mean to break. She robbed an Outback Steakhouse on Cops Eat Free night and got arrested by 32 people. She showed up to a women's prison to give a speech about recovery and got tackled by an inmate she didn't recognize. She has a blood pressure reading of 300/10 and genuinely doesn't understand what that means. She is, by almost every measurable standard, a complete and total disaster. And for a long time, the show is happy to let you see exactly that and nothing more. Except, here's the thing that I kept coming back to the more I thought about Tammy Diffendorf. Every character in that AA group got there because of something. Bonnie was abandoned at 4. Jill watched her mother choose to leave. Christy raised herself while her mother was somewhere else entirely. Tammy's origin story is different from all of them, and it's darker than all of them. Her father took her mother's life, and Tammy, as a child, went into the foster care system because of it. Not because her parents couldn't cope, not because poverty or addiction or circumstance made the family unsustainable, because an act of violence took her mother away and left her father in prison. She didn't lose her mother. Her mother was taken, and everything, the drinking, the prison, the steakhouse, the chaos, the enormous laugh and the enormous heart, and the absolute inability to do anything quietly. All of it starts there, in a little girl who lost everything before she was old enough to understand why. So let me tell you what Mom is actually doing with Tammy Diffendorf, because it is a lot more than a running joke about a bad criminal. Let's actually trace what happened to Tammy after her mother was gone. She ended up in foster care, which, as we've established through Bonnie's story across this series, is not a safe and nurturing place by default. It's a system. It moves people around. It is not, structurally, designed to give a grieving child the thing they most need, which is someone who stays. But for a while, Tammy has something. She has the Dickinson foster home. She has stability of a kind. And she has Bonnie Plunkett, her foster sister, who is chaotic and difficult and trouble. But she's there. She's the closest thing to a constant that Tammy has. And then Bonnie steals their foster father's wallet and plants it in Tammy's bag. Their foster father finds it. Tammy is blamed. Tammy is thrown out. And Bonnie doesn't even remember doing it. That detail matters enormously because it means Tammy spent 40 years carrying the weight of that betrayal. 40 years of her life shaped by the fallout from that single moment, while the person who caused it had filed it away somewhere too small to find. Tammy's entire trajectory changed because of something Bonnie did so casually she couldn't even recall it decades later. After she gets kicked out, Tammy spirals, which makes complete sense. She had already lost her mother to violence. She had already been placed with strangers, and now the one familiar thing in the unfamiliar world was gone too. Because the person she was closest to set her up. She starts drinking, she makes bad choices, and eventually she robs an Outback Steakhouse, specifically on Cops Eat Free night, which is the kind of detail that tells you everything you need to know about Tammy's judgment under pressure. And she goes to prison for 7 years. 7 years for a crime that is, in the grand scheme of things, stealing steaks. 7 years because she had no resources, no family, no lawyer, no one in her corner, while Bonnie was somewhere else entirely, living her own chaotic life, having completely forgotten the moment that set all of this in motion. Now here's the part that I find genuinely extraordinary. When we first see Tammy in season 5, she is in a prison. Bonnie has come to give a speech about recovery. She stands up and introduces herself. And Tammy, who has spent 40 years in the direction her life went after that foster home, stands up across the room and charges at her. She is screaming. She is furious. She says, "You ruined my life." And the reason that moment is so powerful is not the chaos of it, though the chaos of it is spectacular. It's what comes next. Bonnie tries to apologize. She goes back to the prison and reads out a list of things she's sorry for. And Tammy listens to the whole thing and then says, "When are you going to apologize for what you really did?" And Bonnie doesn't know. She genuinely, actually doesn't know. And in that moment, you see everything on Tammy's face. 40 years of anger that was always aimed at a specific target. And the target doesn't even know they're the target. The thing that defined her life, that shaped every bad choice and every wrong turn and every year in prison. The person responsible has filed it somewhere she can't retrieve. That is one of the cruelest things the show does. And it does it quietly, in what the audience is mostly experiencing as a comedic subplot. Here's what I want to talk about now, because this is where Tammy stops being a punchline and becomes something much more interesting. After Bonnie figures out what she actually did, after the real apology, after Tammy gets out of prison and comes to stay with Bonnie and Christy, she doesn't leave. She could. She has every reason to keep moving. Every relationship in her life has told her that people are either taken from you or they throw you out. Her mother was taken. Bonnie threw her out. The foster system moved her around. Prison contained her. She has absolutely no evidence from her own life that staying in one place with one group of people leads anywhere good. But she stays. She moves in with Marjorie. She goes to the AA meetings. She shows up. Week after week, season after season, she just keeps showing up. And what she brings to that group is something nobody else in it has. She is not performing recovery. She is not managing the optics of getting better. She is the most honest person in that room about where she came from and what she did and what was done to her. She doesn't have Jill's veneer or Bonnie's deflection or Christy's complicated relationship with accountability. Tammy just says the thing, loudly, without filtering it first, which is sometimes chaotic and sometimes inappropriate and always, always real. Then there's the dental episode, and I want to spend some time here because it's one of the most quietly important moments in Tammy's arc. She has a dental procedure. She is in genuine pain afterward, and Bonnie, who is managing her recovery, won't let her take the pain medication. Now, if you know Bonnie's story, you know why. Bonnie relapsed on pain medication after a back injury. She knows exactly what a legitimate prescription can become. She knows the disease is patient and specific and will use any door you leave open. And Tammy, who is in real pain, who has every reason to resent Bonnie's authority over anything given their history, says, "I don't want to relapse. I hate you and I love you, and I don't want to relapse." That line, that is everything, because Tammy is choosing, in that moment, her sobriety over her comfort, her future over her pain, and she is doing it in a relationship with the person who derailed her life, because she has somehow, improbably, decided that this person is worth trusting again. That's not something you arrive at easily. That is a decision that required Tammy to look at everything Bonnie did and everything that followed from it and decide that the person in front of her now is worth more than the person who planted that wallet. That kind of forgiveness is not a small thing. The show treats it like a character beat and moves on, but it's actually enormous. And then comes the aunt. In season 7, Tammy gets a call from her long-lost Aunt Cookie, her mother's sister, a woman she has never met, who claims she only just found out Tammy existed because she cut ties with the family before Tammy was born. They get along. Tammy is cautious but open. And then Cookie admits she needs a kidney. That's why she called. That's why she found her. The only reason her long-lost aunt reached out after a lifetime of silence is because she needs something from Tammy's body. And then it gets worse. Bonnie finds out that Cookie knew about Tammy the whole time. She knew when Tammy's mother was pregnant. She knew when Tammy went into foster care. She knew and she didn't come. She let a child whose father had just taken her mother's life go into the system, alone, rather than take her in. Think about what that means for Tammy. Her mother's own sister knew she existed, knew what had happened, and chose not to show up. She has spent her entire life without family, not because there was none, but because the family that existed decided she wasn't worth the disruption. Tammy storms out, which is the correct response. And then she thinks about it, and she decides to give Cookie the kidney anyway, not to have a relationship. She is clear about that. She will not be used again, not for emotional access, not for pretend family, but she will give her the kidney. She will save her life, not because Cookie deserves it, because Tammy has decided that she is going to be the kind of person who does that. That decision tells you everything about who Tammy actually is underneath the noise. She is not hard. She was never hard. She just got very good at surviving things that would have made most people hard. And she came out the other side, still choosing generosity, still choosing connection, still refusing to let what was done to her determine what she was capable of doing. There is one more moment I keep coming back to. A small one. Easy to miss. In the Season 8 premiere, Tammy's father calls from prison to wish her a happy birthday. Her father, who killed her mother, who is the reason for everything, who set the entire trajectory of her life in motion with a single act of violence before she was old enough to remember her own mother's face. He calls, and Tammy answers. The show doesn't make a huge deal of this. It's brief. She talks to him for a moment, and then the scene moves on. But I keep thinking about what it takes to answer that call, what it means to be the person who answers that call. After everything, after the foster homes and the framing and the prison and the aunt who knew and didn't come, Tammy answers. Not because he deserves to hear her voice, but because Tammy Diffendorf, who had more reasons than anyone to become someone who doesn't pick up, picks up. Here's what I think Mom is actually doing with Tammy that it never says directly. Every character in that AA group is working through something. Bonnie is learning to stay. Christy is learning to look backward honestly. Jill is learning to let people see her. Marjorie is learning that strength and vulnerability can exist in the same person. Tammy is learning something different, or maybe she already knows it, and the show is just letting us catch up. Tammy already knows that people will let you down. She has empirical evidence going back to the first memory she could possibly have. Her father, her foster care, Bonnie, Cookie, the entire criminal justice system that gave a traumatized young woman 7 years for stealing steaks. She knows, and she chooses people anyway. That's not naivety. That's not stupidity, despite what the show sometimes implies with its jokes about her judgment. That is a decision, made consciously, by someone who understands the full cost of trusting people, and does it anyway because the alternative, closing down, never letting anyone in, becoming someone the world can't reach, is not who she wants to be. Most people who go through what Tammy went through don't come out still open. They come out defended. They come out with walls so solid nobody gets through anymore. They come out having learned that the only safe relationship is the one you can exit quickly. Tammy comes out from prison, from foster care, from 40 years of the fallout of things that were done to her before she had any say in any of it. And she moves in with the woman who betrayed her and starts going to AA meetings and builds a construction business and shows up for people over and over when they need her. In the series finale, Tammy runs into the judge who sentenced her to 7 years, and she tells him she's doing well. She has the business. She has the friends. She has a relationship. She is, by any measure, someone who made it. The judge probably doesn't fully understand what it cost her to get there. The show doesn't linger on it. Tammy doesn't make a speech about it. She just tells him she's doing well, and she means it. That's the Tammy thing, not the robbery, not the 32 arresting officers, not the chaos and the loudness and the broken things. The fact that she is standing in front of the person who sentenced her, and she is genuinely, actually doing well, and she got there without becoming someone else. She got there as herself, which is the only way Tammy was ever going to get anywhere. So maybe Tammy Diffendorf isn't the character Mom takes seriously first. She is absolutely the easiest one to underestimate, but she is the one who started the furthest back. A child whose father took her mother, whose foster sister took her stability, whose aunt took her trust, whose circumstances took her freedom, and who came out the other side, still intact, still choosing people, still showing up. Her father killed her mother, and Tammy answered his birthday call. That is not weakness. That is the most radical thing anyone does in this entire show. If this video made you think about Tammy differently, subscribe and give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. Did you see this in her? Or did the show have you fooled by the jokes?